In 5, 4, 3.
Hey, and welcome to the Drive Your Line podcast. This is where we talk about everything karting, all aspects, chassis, engines, manufacturers, rules, races, series, and so much more. Be sure to come back and listen. Hey, welcome Wednesday nighters, and thank you for joining us for the Drive Your Line podcast. Tonight, we kind of have a special treat. We're going to have an interview with Lake Speed, the 1978 CIK World Champion, and he's going to spend some time with us. he said, "Well, I don't know how much time we got." I looked over at Daniel. I said, "How much time we got, Daniel?" He goes, "As long as you want to go." So this could last 10 minutes. It could last an hour. It could last 2 hours. Shoot, we might have to do it in segments. But Lake Speed is definitely joining us. He's already queued up and ready to go. I don't have a means of collecting any information if somebody wants to ask questions, unless you send it to my Facebook. You can ask me some questions there. I'll try and look at it. But Lake has an incredible history. If you're going to say anything about Lake Speed and his relationship with karting, it's a romance. His entire story is a romance of things that came together perfectly at the right time. And from beginnings here in Jackson, Mississippi, to the big stage in Le Mans, France, to NASCAR, to finding it out in fact victory lane in NASCAR, and so much more. I mean, Lake is such an integral part of karting even today. You'll find him at the vintage events. He is the B bomb master, and he'll be joining us here in just a few seconds. I wanted to go over that. I thank you again for joining us. This is a podcast that we generate here organically, with Daniel and Audio Alchemy. Alan's with me to my left. Hopefully, Larry Ritter will be starting in the door here soon and joining us. But if you're interested in advertising on the podcast, becoming a sponsor or partner, please reach out to us and let us know. It takes money to do these things, and I want to be sure that we're producing the right content for karting. Want this to be a service for our friends in the karting community, and we want you to enjoy it as much as we enjoy doing it. So if you need to get information about how to get in touch with us, you can find my email on driveyourline.com, and you can also email Christy at driveyourline.com. But hey, I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to bring in the superstar, Lake Speed.
Well, hello.
Come on in, Larry. Come on in. Larry just arrived. How are you, Lake?
Timing's perfect.
That's right.
Perfect.
That's right.
We're doing fine.
So I thank you so much for joining us tonight. Being able to sit down and talk with you has definitely been the highlight of my week, if not my month. And I'm thankful that you were able to not only make time for us, but a lot of time, because I know you have a huge story to tell.
Well, I'm just really pleased and tickled to see what you're doing in Mississippi and just south in the southeast period with karting. It's something that I kind of planted a long time ago.
Well, yeah, you did. You did. There are people here that do not forget the tracks that you helped promote, the ones that you've built, your kart shop that was over there off of 51, the track that you had there. Nobody forgets it. I get so many people who reach out to me and are always telling me what was here and how it all evolved. So I wanted to hear it from you. I wanted to hear it from you first account, how everything had happened here in Jackson, Mississippi. Because when you look around, this is not the megalopolis of motorsports. And you kind of started it after they started racing at an airport. So start from the beginning. How did you get involved in karting?
The very beginning was on a Christmas morning. I heard a loud something or another coming up the street and went out, and a kid 2 blocks over had gotten a real live racing go-kart for Christmas. Had one of the McCulloughs with a straight header on it, and he was blasting up the street, had racing slicks on it and everything. And all we'd ever seen was yard karts. We didn't know anything about it. I don't know. I don't think I had my horse breaking my leg at that time. I think that came a little bit later. But basically, I wanted to fool with something that didn't have a brain. I remember that. And that's it. This go-kart thing looks pretty good. And talked my folks into getting me one. And it was a yard cart at first. And when I tore up the front yard, my mother said, then she was easy to talk into getting something that had slick tires on it and ran on the pavement. So that was kind of, and my older brother, one that's next to me age-wise, Joe, he was in cahoots with me too and helping me. He liked the kind of idea of me getting a racing cart. So we talked mother into letting me get a racing cart. And the strangest thing you could ever imagine, my father took me to the first go-kart race I ever went to, was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and went down there and ran it. And they announced that night was night race, that was the final race, that the track was closing up and they were out of business.
Oh my.
Well, that's not very good. What's this? And there's a kart club. There's a Jackson Kart Club. So I think the following week or the next week, I went to a go-kart club meeting, and they announced there that was the final meeting for the kart thing. Since there wasn't a track anymore, there wasn't going to be a kart club anymore. So that was my introduction to karting.
Wow.
But I had a racing cart. Now, what am I going to do with this thing? Then I probably the next time I got to race, most likely was in Columbus, Mississippi. I think it's Labor Day weekend. They used to have 100-mile long kart race, endurance kart race through a big park, a city park there. And I remember going up there and running that race and wound up crashing. A bunch of carts spun out right in front of me, and I run into them. But that was kind of my introduction to karting. And my older brother got another kart, and my older brother took me to a few races because I didn't have any way to go myself. I didn't have a driver's license. I wasn't old enough. But when I turned 15, in Mississippi back then, at 15, you got your driver's license. As soon as I got my driver's license, then I started driving to Memphis, and there was another track in northern Alabama. And then, hard to believe this stuff, but I drove all the way to Georgia to Barnesville. So those were and the one track in, like I told you, up there close to Knoxville somewhere in Tennessee, Walter Hill, I think they called it. So you had Memphis, Walter Hill, the one in North Alabama, and then once in a while you drive all the way over to Georgia and race. But you can imagine that didn't mean I just didn't get to race very much. But
so if you're a kid in Jackson, Mississippi, and what do you think the time frame was? What year was all this happening?
This had to be, but then, like I said, the first race I'm thinking it was probably maybe 12 years old, something like that, and till 15. When I got 15, like I said, I started traveling. My folks, unbelievably, they let me travel all over everywhere.
So if you're a kid in Jackson, Mississippi, you better be prepared to do some miles and some windshield time.
2-lane highways, baby.
So you get your first go-kart. What do you remember what the first kart was you ever had?
The first one I ever got was a Yazoo Special. It was a Yazoo lawnmower company in Jackson, and they built a little small cart, when karting was booming all over the country. That was
been a McCullough dealer.
So they sold it at a little dealership place there in town. But that was the first one, and then the next one was a McCullough cart.
Okay.
The one that I actually raced was a McCullough cart.
So you're a 15-year-old kid from Jackson, Mississippi, traveling all over the South to race. At what time did speed karts evolve?
Actually, right in the middle of what we just talked about. And it wasn't really speed. It was, but it wasn't. There was a few other people in town that started getting karts. And there was one guy that had a machine shop business, and he was into karting. And he keeps a few parts, not very much, a few things. And so I was really interested in it. So I was looking through magazines and whatever kart magazines I could find. And I found some distribution centers. So I started buying parts off the distribution things. And then I would sell them to the local guys or fix their karts for them, work on their karts and everything. So speed karts started in our garage.
And how old are you at this point when this evolves?
I'm telling you, probably 15 years old. Because I remember I was working in the summer times. I'd work for my uncle, he had a plumbing supply place. I'd work there rebuilding water meters and filling orders and whatever. And then when I got 15, then they put me in a pickup truck and had me delivering stuff all summer, driving around doing that. But speed karts started out back early, and we just kept doing it. And then when I got out of college, I was working for my dad a little bit and in real estate stuff. And one day I got this crazy idea. I said, I think I want to open a kart business and do that full time. And he told me I was absolutely out of my mind. You're crazy. Are you kidding me? And so anyway, I did. And that was the beginning of when things really started going. By that time, I'd gotten married. And, so we were pretty independent and wanting to go do our thing. And so that's when we opened up our first. Had to go rent a building. That was the first time we rented a place.
You had to parlay money for it.
Working out of mom and dad's garage, any longer. But so we started that, and that's when Larry and I got together. And
so your father was Leland Speed, and at one time was a mayor here in Jackson, Mississippi.
Right.
And
his brother's also Leland.
So that's right. That's right.
That confuses a lot of people.
Yep.
My father was born in 1899.
Wow.
So he was 50 years old, I think 50 years old, 50 years old when I was born. I was an oops that came along, accident, after.
Save the best for last kind of thing.
8 years after the family was supposed to be completed.
Now, you also built several tracks here. You built the one there at the shop off 51. And
that was the last one, I think.
And then there was a track at the airport.
Mm-hmm. We started out at the airport. That was the first track that we had. I don't know how we talked the city into letting us. They had an old runway. It was abandoned runway at the old municipal airport. And I don't know how I found out about it, but I was, you're really interested in looking for stuff. So we found a big piece of asphalt because we've been trying to run around in people's parking lots and stuff like that. And they didn't like that. So
you guys started at the airport.
Found that, and they let us go out there and have it. And we ran out there for several years. Larry probably got a better memory on that than I do, but we ran there for a few years. And then they started saying they wanted us to not be out there anymore. But they offered to build us a track. I said, what? Man, dang, that's really good.
Yeah.
And so to get us off of that strip, I don't know what they were planning on doing on it. I don't think they ever did anything. But they said they had a waterworks plant out there, and they were doing something. They'd already put the airplanes out there doing the model airplanes. So they built us a kart track. I laid it out, and they built it.
So that's how the track at Spring Ridge Raceway started at Buddy Butts Park, and that's the track that we're currently working on now to resurrect.
That's got to be the best piece of asphalt that's ever been put down anywhere for it to still be there.
Oh, buddy.
Think about all the years.
All the laps, all the tires, all the people. Yeah. That's pretty impressive.
But
what year was that track?
The kart business, when we up there on North State Street, when the kart business started, we got it going. I through the karting stuff, I found a lot of other people, other kart shops, and people that were racing karts had rental kart deals, and they were all telling me they were making a killing off of it. And I thought, well, shoot, I've got enough room here. We can do that here too. So we added that, and the kart business just took off. And especially, we were already doing really well, but when I started going out of the country and finding out stuff, especially when I started going to Europe, every year I'd come back with a bunch of new products, and that really kept us on the kind of the leading edge of the kart business too. That, and we were selling things wholesale cheaper than most anybody else you could buy from.
So you're getting Jackson, Mississippi. You've built this track. Now you've got rental carts on it.
A mail order house. It's turning it into a mail order house now. We're selling stuff all over the world.
And about what time do you start taking your karting performance and your ability as a driver seriously, and start thinking, hey, how far can I go with this, and what people do I need to bring into the fold? When do you start organizing that in your mind?
First time I went to a go-kart track.
Spoken like a true racer, right
I
there.
went to a real racetrack. I was on kill. Got to figure this out and do it.
So if I'm not mistaken, the track here at Spring Ridge was built in 67. No?
73, 74.
So it was older. It's younger than that.
Yeah.
Isn't that right, Lee?
Yeah, I think so too, because I think we were first year I went to the World Championships was in 73. And I think we built it just a little bit before that.
Yeah. That's probably right.
Or if not, we got it built right after I got back. I don't remember the timing, but I know I practiced for the World Championships out there a lot, a whole lot. There's a whole lot of running out there.
So
I'm just out there by myself. Nobody there at all, just me,
So you're starting to think about taking this overseas, and about what time do you start running into Lynn Haddock?
Lynn and I, early. I mean, this was before I was 15, I imagine. I think,
Oh, wow.
I'm going to say, I believe my brother took me to one of those races. Maybe not. Maybe when I was 16, maybe 15, 16, something like that. Be my guess.
And I know that most people run into Lynn as a competitor. You're competing against him.
Right.
And when about did you two start gelling and becoming the Lake and Lynn show? Because I know that you both competed at the World Championships, and Lynn, had gone many, many times.
Right.
But Lynn was always, tall
Mhm.
and good sized guy.
Right.
And Lord knows he could drive. But about what time does it then become Lake the driver and Lynn the mechanic?
All our coming together all happened, I think, and the have to get my head straight here. We competed against each other a good bit, and then in about, Larry, I don't know, you remember the year we switched over and I parked all the Comet stuff, and Dan LaMello that owned APCO, he was the importer for the BM engines, and I know exactly when it was. I decided I was going to go to the World Championship after first I had already gone to Hong Kong. I don't know if you remember or not. And 71, I won my first national championship at Camden. I'd won that was the first year the Bug Stinger came out, and I had a twin engine Bug Stinger B open kart, and went to Barnesville, which was, like I said, kind of one of my home tracks, and I qualified on the pole and won every heat at Barnesville. easily, walked off and left everybody. Then we went to Camden and won the national championship at Camden. Then Richard Burton, this guy out in California, was doing engines and stuff back then. And if you remember Dave Knapp and Frankie Harbin, he was doing all the motors and karts and everything for them on the West Coast. I can't really tell you how I got connected with him, but somehow or another, probably through just parts business or whatever, he called me up after the national championship and said, "You want to go to Hong Kong with us?" I said, "Hong Kong? What's the deal?" He said, I think they were paying $20,000 to win the race.
Oh yeah, that was
At a
I
park.
remember hearing about this.
Only park in all of Hong Kong. It's the only big city park. They raced there, and they had run it at least once before. I don't know how many times they'd run it before, but they invited the top karts from European, the top cars, Fullerton, all that bunch of those guys come over, and they've got some people up from Australia and New Zealand, and they're paying the people to come and then paying you a bunch to race and then buy all your equipment so you don't have to take it back.
Wow.
So you ship it over there one time, race it,
Sell it.
buy it, and if you win, they pay you a bunch of money if you win. So we said, heck yeah, let's go there.
How can you lose?
We're cocky as we could be, Went over there. So Frankie won, and I finished second in that race. That was the only time Frankie ever beat me.
So, obviously this was all taking place in the, early to mid
That was
70s.
70. That was 70. That was the end of 71. So 72 comes along, and I don't know what transpired. I can't really even remember. I think I do remember a little bit now. 72, my open night kart was a rocket. And my twin engine kart was always fast. And we just usually always dominated with that. But even my single engine kart, everywhere I went, you go out there and practice and set a new track record, just practicing, getting ready to go wherever we were. And by then we had the kart business going, so we were starting to go race a lot more often. Still nothing like the guys in the Midwest or the West Coast or Florida. They were racing every weekend, But, I'd maybe go 4 or 5 races a year, all I'd run. So I'd gotten really cocky that year, and I think somebody said something about a world championships, and I thought to myself, we'll just go over there and kick their behinds too. And Lynn said, "Well, you're going to Europe. I want to go too." He contacted me. He said, "I'll go over there and help you. Need somebody to wrench for you." And I said, "Yeah, it's just me and Aurora otherwise." And so we all shipped a go-kart over there, and we rented us a VW micro minibus and went there, picked up our cart and went to the racetrack, and we went out to the track. And I mean, they had a big old circus tent up, and all these.
There's an image.
A zillion people already.
Rednecks, Yankees going from United States and renting a microbus and traveling Europe.
Lake, tell them what kind of cart stand y'all use.
Well, we're getting to that yet now. Hold on.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
You want to jump too many years ahead.
All right.
Still answering the question how Lynn and I get together. So we go over there and we drive up to the track, and there are already people out there practicing and everything, And this track's got a long straightaway downhill into a 180-degree turn, and it goes back up the hill. And we sit there and watch those cars. They come flying down the straightaway, hit that corner, and go back up there. We looked at each other and said, "We're going to kill these people. We're going to murder them." We're thinking that's clutch, man. We're going to just stomp them. And anyway, long story short, we didn't even make the main event. They embarrassed us to no end. And they were heckling us and everything else. And finally, Eddie Sheaver's dad felt so bad for us. He said, "We got a cart over here we can loan you. If you take that clutch off your motor and put on this cart, and we'd give you a chance to at least get close anyway." And they did that, and we picked up enough to I think we missed the main event getting in the top 30. There were over 100 drivers, and I think we finally qualified about 32nd or something. I think we missed it by a couple of spots. So we got to watch the World Championships, and we were pretty low, and our egos were hanging low. We looked at each other and said, well, are we
Now
going to go home and play like this never happened? Or are we going to go home and get our stuff together and come back? And I chose to get my stuff together and come back.
Now, how many times did
Hold
you?
on. When I came home, I get the call from LaMelo. He says, I understand you had a rough time at the World Championships. I said, yeah. Went through it. He said, I got a proposition for you. You put those comments away and help me promote the BM engine, and I'll get you a factory support at the World Championships with BM next year. I said, deal.
That's a hard deal to pass up right there.
Sir, I put that stuff away, and Lynn did the same thing, and we both started running BMs and pushing BMs. And then the next year we went back. Lynn went back and drove too, and but like I said, he was too heavy. He couldn't get the weight limit down. And so then the following year we went back again, and he didn't run. He just helped me wrench. And that year we had 6 people driving at the World Championships, 5 more people
From the United States.
From the United States, Dismore and Kathy Hartman, and I don't know. I think Lynn might have even drove again that year. Now I think about it, I think he might have run that too. But anyway, we had a whole field of them back that time. And then at the end of that year, Felix Ravelli's father bought BM and said there's no more factory support. They had factory drivers, paid drivers who drove for BM over there. So no more paid drivers, no more factory support for any of the distributors, anything. My son's going to be the only one that's going to be running BM for World Championships. And he did, and he won. He bought a tire company too.
Oh, my. So they were the movers and shakers of that time.
Yeah.
And I've heard stories that you guys went over and left the original equipment that you took with you the first time. And then we started to see more of an influence of the European designed go-karts in the United States, end of the 70s, into the 80s. Manufacturers here started making those changes.
You cut me short just a little bit, and I'll answer all those questions for you. The next year, when he cut everybody off,
I think I just got told zip it.
I called Miami and said, you're not selling any Perilla engines. And that was the factory team race to Perilla. I said, you're not selling any Perillas in the United States. I'll promote and sell those things in the United States if in turn you'll give me factory support at the World Championships. And he said, deal. He said, you got a go-kart? I said, not yet. He said, call Burrell. They'll take care of you. Yeah. So that's how we got Burrell and Perilla in the United States. And I started importing both of them.
Wow.
And we went back, and third year, we won the World Championship.
Well, now I know that we can blame Lake for our addiction to IME products now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money sitting in that garage.
Yeah. And when after I won the World Championships, the kart business had gotten really hectic, really hard on me, and just mental struggle. And when I was in Europe, I raced against Ayrton Senna and a whole bunch of other Formula One drivers. Later, went on in Formula One. I got to thinking myself, maybe I could do something professional racing. And so God did some miracles for me to get invited to get involved with the NASCAR program. And that's when we did that. And Lynn took over the Barrel Perilla stuff, and we wound up running a kart shop for another year or so ago there. And then just the stock car thing sucked all the money up. And we had to close the kart shop.
So, back in those days, they didn't have the ladder programs and the development programs that we have now, making
Right.
the changes from karting into larger forms of racing. You basically went from a go-kart, boom, into a stock car.
Nothing in between.
Yeah. Did you get yourself involved in any of the driving schools that were just coming onto the scene back then? Bob Bondurant. I know there were a couple of others that were up in the Northeast at that time. Did you ever get involved in any of those?
Yeah, I did one on the West Coast. I can't remember the name of it. What is that thing? British School of Motor Racing or something like that, I think. What
Yeah.
they call it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a West Coast guy out there, and that was an interesting thing too. It was like Formula Fords that they had in
Yep.
the school, and it was at Ontario Motor Speedway. You run the road course there, and I'd raced karts there once or twice, and got in that Formula Ford, and the instructor kept telling me, said, "You're cheating." I said, "I'm not cheating." They had tack, on the tack, they had a tattletale thing on it, tell you how many RPMs you went, and you're not supposed to go with just so many RPMs. And he said, "You can't run that fast with that tack that low. It can't be done." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is." And he kept on figuring on it and looking at it and whatever, talking to me. And I guess maybe, I don't know what they did to it. Anyway, when he got through, he said, "You need to get in professional racing, son." I've only seen a few drivers ever come to this school, and both of them wound up in Formula One. I said, "Well, I've been to Europe, but I'm not really interested in living over there. I don't think I'm going to do that." And so that's when the stock car thing, God did a miracle, and I get a phone call out of nowhere, and the guy invites me to come to Charlotte and show me around a stock car race, and they even got me an opportunity to go test a car. That was the beginning of it. That's how it all started.
So, what was your first experience in a stock car?
It didn't end well. Let's say it this way. A stock car back then weighed 3,800 pounds. They still had shock absorbers off street cars on them, and the big old things are like tanks flopping around and whatever. First time I went out in a thing, I mashed the gas pedal and it didn't take off like my C Open did.
Oh, no.
No, but it just kept on getting faster. The further you went down the straightaway, the faster it get. It took me to a track that had sealer on it, which was not really cool because it's really slippery until you get a bunch of people running on it. So I went out and ran a little bit and trying to find, you can't see the tires. The steering wheel is just, you move it all around. It's just the car's flopping. It was the weirdest, most god-awful feeling thing I'd ever been in my life. And when I came off track, they said, "Man, you did really good." And I said, "I did what? Did good? I hadn't even tried to run hard. I'm just trying to figure out where that concrete wall is, how close to get to it and stuff." And so, okay, I'll go back out again. I went back out this time, said, "Okay, I'm going to go a little bit better." And I sailed her off in the corner and crashed that thing, tore it all to pieces, destroyed it.
Before we get into any more crash and burn stories, I want to backtrack just a little bit back to your world championships.
Mm-hmm.
Can we recap some of that and how it?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you beat
that year
one of the greatest drivers in history, which makes you one of them. I mean,
Yeah.
So tell us how that all evolved.
Let me back up just a little bit. First year didn't make the race. Next year, Glenn and I keep arguing about it. Next year, I think I finished the last heat about 12th, the last final. I wouldn't start out that way. I think qualified back a little further, but I worked my way up to like 12. Then the next year, I went and we moved up some more. We were up to like 6 or 7, something like that. And then the next year, 5th, if I remember right. And then ultimately, then we won the world championship. think the year before I won it we finished either fifth at Parma, Italy. But anyway, I'd been kind of working my way up each time. You were getting closer and closer, and I think I was the top finishing bureau driver the last 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in front of
And at that time, did you finish the world finals? Did you win the world championship? What engine package were you on with that?
Bureau Perilla, TT22. Yeah, TT22.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Gotta love that. This all happened in an era where we just weren't traveling all over the world to go karting. Heck, we were barely traveling all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, what kind of logistics were involved for you to take your first kart over there, and how long did it take?
Really wasn't that big a deal. You had a big old cardboard box that got carts in. They shipped them around, and they were shipping dart carts and everything else by that time. And so for
throw it on the boat and go.
Send a cart. You just took it out to the airport, and they put a sticker on it. And you picked it up at the baggage claim, and where I was, that was in Belgium. The first year I went to Belgium.
So, how many countries have you kart raced in?
Oh my goodness! Let's see here. Out of the country. First time out of the country was Hong Kong. The next time out of the country would have been, well, all the European countries. Each year there was Belgium, and the next year was France, Italy, Germany, and Portugal. Then New Zealand. I think that's it. However many that is.
And that was pretty significant back then. I mean, like I said, people were just not traveling all over the world. So to hear you had gone to all these countries is quite a monumental task. Back then, it wasn't commonplace.
Well, after we went the first year, Lynn and I mean, that's when we really hooked together. We had a mission. It was like, okay, but they laughed at us, and we're gonna get the last laugh if we make this thing. If everything goes the way we hoped it would go, we would get the last laugh.
So I don't know if you can point it out there.
5 more years. It took 5 more years to get the last laugh, but when I won Grana, that was a head of overall of karting over there, CIK and everything. He said, I can't believe it. That gun tourist has come over here and won the world championships.
So I don't know if you can there from where you're sitting, but could you point out the world championship cup behind you over your shoulder?
I don't think I have to point it out. It's right there.
The tourist cup.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So did you go back over any other time after that, after you won the world championships?
Nope. That was.
You said you did it. It's been there
year, the whole story is the same year, though, my wife decided she didn't want to be married to me anymore. And that happened just a few months before I went to the world championships.
Oh,
and
wow.
I had actually called him and told him I wasn't going to come. And then when I called him back a few weeks later, my oldest brother, I didn't know, my older brother is 16 years older than I am. That sucker had been a closet racing fan, and I didn't know it.
Mm.
The year before I won, him and his wife were in the grandstands in Italy.
That's amazing.
They'd gone over there for a planned vacation to go to Venice for something. Big brother had done real well. And so when he knew I was going to be racing over there, they came, but didn't tell me because I found out years later about all this stuff that he did the same thing at stock car. He'd come to stock car races, not tell me he was coming, but be in the grandstands watching. But when I told him I wasn't coming back, he's the one that really jumped on me and said, look, all these years you put into this goal, and as close as you were last year, you got to go back. You got to go back. This is going to be your year.
So since it was your year,
I called the factory back up and tell them, said, look, Big Brother's talked me into coming. So I want to come again. And Ron, the head guy, said, look, man, we've kind of distributed all the stuff for all of our other distributors already. I don't know what we can do. And he hesitated a minute, and he came back and said, but you come on anyway. We'll get stuff together. We'll take care of you. Come on. And so we did.
You guys went over, didn't have a cart, didn't have an engine, didn't have anything that you knew that you could race.
When I started going over there after about the third trip over, I took my own best engine with me every time after that. And that best engine of mine, I would practice with it as well as the ones they'd give me. And when I could go back to the head engine guy and say, mine's better than yours, he said, give me those back. I'll give you some more. What happened the year I won? It was the same thing because we had helped him with some things. You know, we've been modifying motors like crazy over here forever. And their stuff was not as exotically modified as what we did. But their use was different. They didn't have clutches on the things. So we'd showed them some things that had worked with the clutch motors. And so the head builder over there, we'd gotten tight with him. And so he kind of took it as a challenge for sure. He said, wait a minute, Speed, you can't have one better than mine. Let me go back to the truck and I'll bring you something back. And he did. And we won the race with that sucker.
So it's race day at the World Championships. Where did you start the main event?
I started the first main third. But this is where the story gets really good. I'm sitting on the go-kart ready for Lynn to push me off. And up comes the top barrel driver that had wrecked out of the last qualifying heat. And he's got 4 wheels and tires in his hands and says, put these on the cart. Lynn and I looked at each other and I jumped off that cart and we changed the wheels and tires. And something's up here, baby. This is going to be good. We're third on not the same tires everybody around us is racing on. This is going to be good. And so race started, and at the first turn, they pushed me off the racetrack. And I came back on the racetrack about 8th and worked my way back up. I was third when the 2 guys in front of me got together. And when they did, I got by both of them and won the first heat. We're down there, Larry was saying, we're at the end of the pit area, way back over here, out of the way. And our kart stand is a 55-gallon drum turned upside down. And we just won the first heat of the championship. And so all the factory guys are coming down there, and they're all beside themselves. They're all happy for us because we've been coming over there, and we've spent a week. Lynn and I spent a week over there in the factory, in both Beryl and Miami, working on the karts and looking at everything, trying to help anything we could, just to learn as much as we could learn. It was like going to college, when we'd go over there and see stuff that we'd never even dreamed of. But so the engine guy, the head engine guy, he's all fired up. He goes there and looks at the motor, pulls the plug out, looks at the plug, and everything. And next thing I know, he's got the head off of it, and he's pulling the cylinder off of it, whatever. And I'm sitting there, man, I hope he don't mess up some, whatever. And he asked before he tore in the motor, he said, how much time have y'all got on it? How long have you run it? And we said, all of it. And his face just went bull, like, oh God, this thing may not make it, whatever. That's when he pulled it all apart and looked at it and he said, hey, this thing looks really good. And bolted all together. And he reached over and took the high-speed needle and turned that thing about a 16th to an 1/8 in. He said, is she really going to run now? You watch this. And as soon as he walked out, I reached over and I put it right back where it was. I told Lynn, I said, we know what we got if we need it. And I never had to touch it. The second heat, if you look at the film, you get to watch it. I got passed, I think, once or twice, but as soon as they passed me, I passed them right back. I was just running it as fast as I needed to go, and that was it. I had the thing on cruise control.
So in the
third heat, now so I won the second heat, so I'm a world champion now. And we're excited. Everybody's going crazy. People in the factory, everybody's going nuts. And then, we're going to get to run the third heat. You just won the world championship. You got to go out there and run again. And I said, well, get some more tires. And you can't have any more. The other two guys, the other two factory-supported Bureau drivers had run second and third to me in that second heat. And he said, we won't let those guys battle it out, but we don't want you to be in the mix of it. Let those two guys go for it. So okay, I don't have any choice. So we just picked the 4 best of the used tires that we had then, put them on, and you'll see in the film, we led the thing for a while, and all of a sudden it's like the light switch, turn the switch off, tires went away, and I fell back to third or fourth, something like that. Those two guys battled it out.
So in your world championship round, Ayrton Senna was in that field. And I had to point out to one of our racers that, that yellow helmet? Yeah, that's your Brazil guy. Ayrton was at that time was a DAP factory driver.
Right.
And had you run into him previously on the grid at other events overseas, or was this your first time?
I didn't know it. The only people I paid any attention to were the factory drivers for the factory karts. Those are the guys you had to worry about. Those are going to be the ones that are going to be the fast ones. So that's really anybody. I just wouldn't.
Yep. That's why they're there. They're the best.
Yeah.
So now we can go back to the NASCAR stuff. How much of your karting experience and how much of your background in karting do you feel contributed to your success in other endeavors and getting into NASCAR?
I don't think words can do it justice. I think if you're really good with a kart, I think you can drive anything. You can probably fly anything. It's being proved out now. I mean, every form of racing, every top motorsports places out there practically now has got go-karters in it.
Yeah, and they have some sort of driver development.
My son, Blake Jr., was telling me here recently that Mercedes is contracting 11-year-old kids.
Yep.
Putting them in a cart, and it's mandatory for them to drive a go-kart like 350 days a year, rain or shine.
Yeah, the development programs have definitely.
The development programs are unreal. And now with the technology they have, it is. It's sickening to me that they can take every trick I have in my driving style and give it to everybody else on the team.
Yep. No secrets.
No secrets. You can't hide. They show you he's beating you right here, or he's beating you right there. This is what he's doing that you're not doing. And it's pretty crazy. But
and the bad thing is some of those kids, they have the ability to overcome all of those issues that are pointed out, and some of them just fold up into a lawn chair and they can't do it. They can't take the stress.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that your driving style was a major contributor to how you race NASCAR?
I think just the skills and abilities that you developed over how many years of just driving a racing vehicle, pulling G's, acceleration, deceleration. We didn't have all the instrumentation to tell you what was going on. You had to learn it all by the seat of your pants. You just had to feel it, and you decided whether or not the clutch wasn't working good enough, or if it wasn't accelerating hard enough, or whatever you adjusted, it was just all on feel. And so I think that had a lot to do with being able to get in a stock car. I didn't have a clue what to do to make it change anything when I first got there. And after about a year of letting some other people put the setup underneath the car, I've got to think, I got to learn something about this thing. I can't sit here and just be trying to drive something that doesn't drive good, and I'll be able to fix it, because I see some other guys' cars driving a lot better than mine. So then I started having to learn how to work on the cars and try to learn what does what and all those things. But I think just the basic skills from karting was the foundation to make everything else work. Everything else could be built off that. And and Christy, this wasn't me. That wasn't just okay, I decided to do this and it's going to happen. I give God the credit for giving me the skills and abilities and opportunities and everything that I was able to accomplish, because the odds were so terrible, so impossible for these things to happen, that it could only be divine intervention. You can't go race against people that race weekly, and you race less than 6 times a year, and go beat those people.
Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and then you don't go to Europe and race against the factory teams once a year. I'm sorry,
And borrowed parts.
nobody can do that on their own. It's just not going to happen. I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, that's why, even today, people still talk about what was achieved by Lake Speed and Lynn Haddock, and how that year all unfolded, and the things that led up to that victory. And, just like you said, you're on a trash can. You're getting tires and wheels from other teammates.
Yeah,
You've got
we were racing in
you
practice
have.
off just standard old tires off of parts truck we got out in the infield when we got there. I didn't understand when he said we've already distributed everything. That's what he was talking about. He got plenty of motors. He got plenty of go-karts.
Yep.
He has got plenty of these trick tires.
Yep. So you start making your transition into NASCAR. Who was the first person you personally drove for?
First one I drove for was me. I was paying the bill.
And what car did you end up with as your first car?
Oh, you don't want to see it. I'm gonna tell you what.
We're going for a while.
We're fixing to go look at something on the wall.
Don't drop us.
I'm not gonna drop it, but you gotta see this.
Yeah, Larry knew what it was.
That is a 0. I mean, that's about what that thing was a 0. And the guy that owned it and sold it to us, we don't have enough time for all the stories here, but they didn't think much of me either. So there's a lot of folks when I first got, like I said, I wrecked the first time I went to practice. Then I went to go try to race the thing, and I wrecked again in practice. Or no, I wrecked in qualifying. Trying to qualify, I wrecked. And so racing world, the NASCAR racing world, so this guy is absolutely nuts. Who's coming here? What's the deal? They didn't know I was just really brave and really ready to go really fast right now. They didn't understand that, but they figured that out a little bit later. So just didn't know anything. Just didn't know anything.
So there you are as a privateer in NASCAR.
Mm-hmm.
How well received were you as a privateer?
Not very. There was Ricky Rudd had been a go-karter. So
Yep.
Ricky was, Ricky's a quiet guy anyway, though, but I talked to him a little bit and he kind of tried to encourage me some and whatever. But Benny Parsons was only, he was one of the veteran drivers that the guy that was helping me was a retired race car driver. He actually was the guy that helped develop Goodyear's Interliner tire. He was paid by Goodyear to drive around Daytona and run over nails and spikes on the racetrack, blow tires out at speed, And Darrell had won some races, and he was real exciting, fine guy, and he saw in me somebody that had never give up and not scared of anything. And he said, I think you got a future, but if you can hang on here and go, he said, I'd love to help you if I can. So he's one to sort of put together the car, and I've got some guys, I think it was a couple of guys working for us, and we'd go to races. We weren't running every weekend, just once in a while when we put everything together, we'd go. And Benny saw that I had some, I guess he thought I had some talent. And so Darrell, my guy, talked Benny into every race that we went to. Benny would take me in a street car and take me around the racetrack and show me, the little characteristics of the track and what to look for and what to do, what not to do, and whatever. So that was always cool. And then I beat him at Darlington, and I think I finished 6th or 7th or something, and eighth, I think, 7th or 8th at Darlington. And he said after that, he said, "Okay, Lake, you're on your own now, buddy." Okay.
So how was it for sponsors? Because obviously money makes the wheels go round, right? And you hear it today. I mean, I can think of like 5 young drivers right now that we talk to on a regular basis, and their biggest issue is funding, sponsorship. And you have to be careful who you tell that you're talking to, because your competitors will sneak in right behind you and
Right.
steal them right out from under you. So how hard was it then? And obviously you're still well connected within motorsports, so you hear how it is now. What do you think the biggest dynamic now in motorsports when attaining funding? What is the difference between now versus then?
Probably none. I've had, I don't know how many people come up to me and say, I've got a son who's a really good race car driver and this, that, and the other, and we really, I want to try to get him in NASCAR or some form of motor racing and everything. Should he go to one of these NASCAR schools, or should he be able to take engineering, all this kind of stuff they were thinking about? And I said, I'm going to tell you what, you better put him in a course where they do marketing. If he doesn't know how to sell himself and sell product, he ain't got a snowball's chance in Hades unless there's a miracle happens. It's all about being able to sell. If you can't market yourself and the race team,
You'll never be able to market their product.
That's right. Yeah. Or if you're fortunate enough to have a team that already has that going for them, maybe a lot of the better teams today all have marketing departments that they've got full-time people work. That's all they do every day, all day. That's their job is to do that. And they do it on a grand scale and make connections. Just like any business, you're in business long enough, you make a lot of connections, and that happens. But if you can't market yourself and be a good representative for the companies that are putting the money up, It doesn't matter how good a driver you are, how good a mechanic you are, or whatever. I mean, if there's no money, it can't happen. That's the sad part.
Yeah. Who was your first major sponsor? Larry's even thinking.
I'm trying to think. I rode several years there that we just scrambled without any major sponsor.
May have been
I tell you what, I tell you what, I tell you who it was, I believe. I believe the Uno card thing was the first one.
Oh.
When I was driving for Hoss, wasn't it? There wasn't anything for that.
Yazoo wasn't before then?
Yeah, but that wasn't anything.
I said it wasn't major, but that was.
You weren't measuring it. Wasn't even every race. It was just a few races.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Stay quiet.
That was Roger Hamby, and Roger's deal was, he had a motel in Daytona that was on his car a lot, but they weren't putting any money in there. He gave him free hotels when he was down there, or whatever. That was about it. But no, really, Uno was the first one, and then we got after the Uno deal, the next year we got that Bullfrog Knits thing.
Oh, yeah, I remember that on the back deck of the car.
Then that was kind of the next one. Then after that was when I moved over to Butch Mock's deal in the 75 car, and we had the Miracle at Daytona was, finished second. And the Nationwide's Auto Parts guy we'd met him Saturday before the race, and he put a deal together with our owners to just get a small sticker put on the car for Sunday. Said he had a whole bunch of customers down there that he needed to entertain and had the company name on the car. And one of the top teams had told him that they were going to do something, and then when he got there, they wouldn't even talk to him. He said they wouldn't even talk to me. So our guys were smart enough. They put his name all over the car like he was a big-time sponsor. And we went out and finished second at Daytona 500. The guy about lost his mind. He said, I don't care what we have to do. We're not taking our name off this car for the rest of the year.
That's awesome.
And, so that was probably really the first time I was with anything where we really had a budget, some serious budget.
So you ran all of your cars out of your own shop, right?
Well, only 2 years that I ran my own car. It was just 79 and 80. Don't take that back. 80 and 81. 79. Well, 79 it wasn't like one race. I don't know. Take that back. I didn't think might not even run. We tried to run the last race of the year in 79 and drove all the way to California to run at Ontario and missed the race by one spot. Didn't qualify. I think that's where that picture on the wall came from. But then the next year we ran 80 and 81 out of our shop. We just rented a little building up there, a little stall out of a shop up there. And then the next year we drove for Roger Hamby, because at the end of 81, I was done. I'd spent everything I had, and we closed up and hauled one car that we had left and whatever parts and tools, and hauled a little box truck and a trailer, brought it down to Brother Joe's motorcycle dealership. He had a big warehouse down there, parked it all in there. And that was it until the Mississippi gang decided we were going to go do a little Busch Grand National racing.
That's when it started getting interesting.
Yeah, that was fun, man. That's when it started getting really fun for the stock car thing. Because now
When you say the Mississippi
we were back here, and I was getting to make all my own decisions and not have to worry, didn't have to confer with anybody else and try to talk them into something. And we took that thing, and the guys, all the men from out Jackson International that we raced against when we were out there, everybody came together and pulled together and worked on this car. That son of a gun led every race we took it to. And we were bad fast with that thing. Almost won the Daytona race. Darrell ran me off in the grass, keep me for the win. But we had some great times with all the guys there. I think you got pictures and stuff of that.
Yep.
It shows
Yep.
shows
Can
the guy involved.
you pop those up there, Daniel?
And Larry was the head of it all. He was
Oh, yeah.
he was a leader. He was a leader. He was a leader for us.
So tell us about your the Darlington victory.
Oh, that was awesome.
Hey, phone's ringing.
I don't know if I had to turn that thing off.
Prank call, prank call.
Be nice to be able to turn that thing off completely. It'll quit in a second. Wait, I don't go right on with it. Interesting thing. The first time I went to Darlington, I mean, all the drivers' views, heard all the horror stories about Darlington cars going over the walls and all this kind of stuff. And my old driver, he's, that was guiding me along. He said, "Look, like, this is one place that I'm not willing for you to go to unless we go down there and test beforehand, because this place will eat your lunch." And I said, okay. So we went down there, and you had to drive across the track to get into the infield. It wasn't a tunnel or anything like that. Drove across the track, and as we drove across the track, I looked up the straightaway, and it looked like we were racing on a sidewalk. It looked like it was really narrow. And I thought, look, dadgum. Anyway, we got out there and practiced, and to some extent, it was, to me, it was. I knew it was treacherous. You have to run really close to the wall, and both corners are different, both ends of the track. But if you've road raced all your life, you're used to corners all being different.
Yeah.
And you really, mentally, you don't want to run off the pavement either, because if you get in the grass with a cart, you're probably in big trouble. So I respected the place, but I wasn't afraid of the place. And I guess I was somewhat conservative, but as the longer I ran, every time I raced there, I might not qualify that good, but by the end of the race, I'm going to be one of the fastest cars on the track, because you develop a rhythm, and it was a special place for me. And the first race, like I said, the first race I went there, I finished 8th. As a rookie, had never been there before. And the next time I came back, I ran there twice a year. The next time I came back, I think I finished 7th the next time.
Just like the World Championship.
It was just getting a little better, getting more used to it a little better. But after that, every time I went there, I had a shot at winning, it seemed like. And I had flat tires, and run over something on the front row for last restart, and run over a piece of metal, and it flats the tire out. So you got a pit stop. Had a motor blow up. We had the whole field down a lap except one car, and broke a valve. What else had happened? There were several things that happened, that you knew you were going to win the race, and all of a sudden you're not. But that year in '88, we went down there. We had them killed. We just had them killed. In practice, before the race started, Earnhardt asked me, said something to me. He said, "Well, how many laps is it going to take before you lap me?" I said, "I don't know." And sure enough, I lapped it. We had a really good car, and that was back when Hoosier was doing a tire thing too. And the guy that owned Hoosier really liked me, and so for the first time ever, we actually got to go tire test. And if you understand what tire testing is, that means I got a chance to go to the racetrack and practice all day long by myself, nobody around, doing whatever I wanted to do on the car. And nobody else got to practice. And then we come back and race. That's what we had to deal with all the time, because your top cars, the top teams, they were tire testing for Goodyear all the time. You know,
Oh, yeah.
they were
Yeah.
getting good tests. They spent, and heck, they're ready when it comes time to go to the race, you know, for the race to happen. So we got that opportunity with Hoosier several times, and it really paid off. And they let me do the tire test for Darlington, and boy, did it ever show up. It really showed up good. So we lapped everybody but one car, and had him almost a lap down again.
What is your greatest memory of your NASCAR experiences?
It's a bad one, but it's, well, I don't know. The greatest one was in '83 at Talladega, when I was leading the race with just a few laps left in the race. And Richard Petty was behind me, and my buddy Benny Parsons was right behind him. And we had checked out and left all the rest of the field. And I'm going down the back straightaway 200 and something miles an hour before restrictor plates. And a little voice asked me, "What are you going to do if you win here too?" And that's quite interesting to hear that. And about that time, a caution flag flew, and somebody else had wrecked, and had to make pit stops. And got ready going down pit road, and the guy said, "Stay out, stay out." And I said, "Too late, I'm already on pit lane." I said, why should I stay out? I said, "Haas didn't buy any more tires. We don't have any new tires to put on it."
Mm.
And so everybody else got new tires. And I think I finished third, if I remember right. But that was the beginning of my life change right then. So as far as the most memorable, that's that. The best, I guess, the other favorite time was in '93 in Charlotte, with our car that we built, frame and everything, in our shop here, where I'm sitting right now at this shop. We had the whole field covered about 0.3 of a second in every practice session that week. And back then they'd qualify in the afternoon, late in the afternoon. And if you went out early, the track was still blazing hot from the sun. And then if you got to go a little later, it cooled down and pick up quite a bit. So they did that by draw, as to when you went out to qualify. So I didn't qualify very good. I had to go out early, but I think I qualified like 15th or something. And they dropped the green flag, and at the first pit stop, I was second and had run down the leader. And they did the pit stop, they dropped the jack, and I dropped the clutch, and the drive shafts, the front of the yoke on the gear snapped off. So we just sat there. I was sick.
Oh, yeah.
Pushed the car in. They put a gear in it, and put another gear in it, and you lose 20, 30 laps, whatever it is. Come back out on the racetrack, and when I was coming out, I came out about the time the rest of the field had just pitted and put new tires on and everything. So I'm a couple of 100 yards ahead of the leaders. And when they dropped the green flag, and Dick Beatty was the NASCAR official. It was over the garage and whatever. He told me this after the race was over. He said, when you went back out on the racetrack, said, Davey Allison told NASCAR,
Sorry.
said, Davey said, y'all need to get Lake out of the way now. And Dick told him, he said, if you catch him, we'll get him out of the way. We never caught me. I was gone. I was gone. 25 laps down or whatever. That's the most memorable one, when you had all the best guys out there, and we had them. That was kind of like, daggone, it's cool. That performance got me the ride in the 28 car. Just a few weeks later.
Larry's got the hotline going.
This guy needs a quick.
Is that still mine?
I don't know. It's one of you guys.
But I said, this guy keeps calling me. I thought we could give up here. But anyway, when David got killed, back up a little bit. We had just switched over to Fords from General Motors products right before that Charlotte race. And we didn't know anything about Ford. I didn't. My engine builder that was working for me said he used to build Fords all the time. So we couldn't even buy the best cylinder heads that General Motors put out. They wouldn't even sell me a casting. We weren't anybody. But Ford at that time was the first CNC cylinder heads that were coming out. And so you could buy them. And the guys are telling us they made a lot of horsepower just right out of the box. So anyway, we said, we're going to switch over. So I went to Robert and said, Robert, Yates, I said, can I buy a used motor from you? And he said, yeah, we'll get you a good used motor. And so I bought this motor from him. And then my guy tore it apart and went through it and rebuilt the thing. Said there was a whole bunch of stuff in there that wasn't good. Just redid the whole shooting match. So we built this Ford, and that was when we went to Charlotte. And as soon as that race was over, my engine builder said Robert was after him, called him every day, trying to hire him to come to work for him. He said, is that the same motor I sold you? Yeah, it's the only one we got. He said, that thing is supposed to run that fast.
Hey.
But that was the most rewarding performance that we had out of our shop, was to go beat the best of the best and beat them straight up, square and fair. Didn't get it in the results pages, but that was one of those moral victories that I think about it still, dream about it from time to time.
So you've still, back into karting, and you're very active into VKA in vintage events, but you also have current equipment as well. So are you running KA? I know just a few years ago you were in a 125 shifter, and then of course you've got that killer C Open that's still floating around. What can you tell me about your karting that you're doing now?
I'm going to shock you again. So I've been out of the stock car for a few years. I don't know how many years, 3, 4, 5 years after my exit. And Steve Peterson was a guy that was a NASCAR tech fella. And Steve had been a go-karter since his teenage years. I didn't know it. He had never told me anything about it. But he still had karts, and he's fooling around karts, from time to time. And Charlotte has had a kart track. It still does have a kart track over between 3 and 4. And Steve and a bunch of guys were going out there on Wednesday afternoons and running the karts on the kart track. And he started calling me and said, Lake, man, why don't you come on out here and ride the karts? So he said, I got 2 or 3 of them. You can ride one of my karts. Yeah, I kept turning him down. One day I didn't. And I went out there and drove his cart. And I went, oh, my gosh, I forgot how much fun these things were. So I said, can I come back next week? And he said, sure. So I came back next 2 or 3 weeks. And I was hooked again, boy. I said, Steve, no offense, but I think I want to get my own go-kart. I got to get my own kart and get going. So another great thing here, I called Grana over in Italy and told him I was going to start fooling with some go-karts. Could he give me a deal on a motor? Well, turns out he was in the hospital, and I don't think he ever got out of the hospital. But he told his secretary, tell Lake I'll take care of him. And so he sent me a motor, just gave it to me. And it was a Leopard, one of those Leopards back then. And so I called Birrell and I asked Birrell, I said, can you give me a deal on a go-kart? And they said, I'll send you one. That was a pretty nice payback.
Yeah, it is.
For winning a World Championship. So that was cool. So I started running out there, and there was a couple of guys showing up out there with a gearbox cart and whatever. And heck, I had my dadgum old Leopard. Could keep up with them, and maybe even putting the pressure on some of them out there. I got to think, man, I want to race. I don't want to just ride out here. I want to race again. There was no sprint racing around anywhere. Couldn't, you had to drive way, whatever. But they were telling me about all the road racing. They're doing all this road racing on the sports car tracks. And they got, the sports car tracks all around us here in the Charlotte area. There's been several not very far away. VR's just 2 hours up the road, and Kershaw just right down the road, about the same distance that way. And another one up in Virginia. There's a couple of them anyway. So I went down and watched the event at Road Atlanta, and I came home and changed my cart over from being a sprint cart to being a road race cart. So I started going to some of the road race stuff. Well, in 2000,
Oh, here we go.
2008, I won the tag national championship, WKA National Championship, 2008.
And how old were you then?
You have to do the math. That's 2008. So when I was born in 48. So
Hold on, let me get you off.
If I was born in 48 and that's 2008, so
58.
60.
Yeah.
70.
60.
60. Okay. 60 years old.
48.
Yeah. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. There was, the fields had 20, 30 carts in them, and we're out there having at it. And I did all my own engines and did everything by myself. Again, did my own stuff. That was very rewarding and fun. And then I don't know what happened. Something happened, economy, or it wasn't COVID. That was long before COVID. But anyway, all of a sudden it dried up and there wasn't anybody showing at the racetrack. So I said, forget this. All right. So I parked it and didn't do anything until they built GoPro out here, track house. When they did that, got me another cart. And,
Back in business.
Started going out there riding first, just riding, running around a little bit. And then I started getting froggy and decided, well, I'm trying to race these kids. So I got me an X30 and whatever, and I tried to race with them some.
So how many clinics did you have to put on for them?
Not too many. There's those kids were, most of all of them were already warmed up and ready to go. The ones I was racing against, we had some of the top guys in the country that were running out of here.
Oh, GoPro's full of some top talent.
They was built. And they were loaded pretty good even back there at the start of it. There was some pretty good stuff. Guys that knew what they were doing, had been doing it for a long time.
Are you still going out to GoPro with a cart?
I had been until about 9-10 months ago. And then just life has been really, really busy. I built a lot of this stuff this building was built 38 years ago. And there's so many things that are wearing out and falling apart and needing maintenance and needing work. And it just seems like everything. We just had to remodel our house this year. I've in the warehouse business, been in the warehouse business pretty much most of my life too, on the sideline.
Being an adult gets in the way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then got 8 grandkids and a whole lot of stuff going on there too. So we got a lot of family stuff going on. Just, it's been crazy. This last 9 months has been the craziest that I've ever experienced, I think.
So I got some questions here from some of the people that have been viewing, and Mike Jones in Texas at Dallas Kart Complex wants to know, when are you coming to his track?
You know, I hadn't been venturing out very much, other than the vintage stuff, which is, I only ran one last year, and only so far this year I've only run one just up there at Newcastle. I was at Sea Open. Man, that thing is so fun on that big track. Gosh dang, I think
Yeah, the video was awesome. You and Mike Geeson.
it's unreal.
Awesome.
It's unreal how fast that thing is. But so all this other stuff's kept me from doing it. I got all my kart stuff back here scattered everywhere. My KAs, got a couple of them that I put 30 hours on them, and you're supposed to, have the rods checked and everything at 30. So I was at 30 and didn't have time to get them fixed. So I hadn't been out there to do my regular exercise and practice and staying tuned up. But I went and had a guy press the crank apart and check the rod and whatever for me yesterday. So hopefully I'm gonna get back to the track here pretty soon.
Hopefully it's on the horizon, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. I know who this is. This is a kid from our kart team. But
let me back up one thing. I have this thing I want to do, and I've shared it with a few kart track owners. I would like to get my life in order where I could take a vintage kart and a modern kart and travel the country to the newer, better kart tracks that I've never seen or experienced.
Come on.
Make a tour. Wouldn't that sound cool?
I think that'd be amazing.
And go to a track and just, go there and play one day.
Yep. I think that'd be great. And it would be great to hear your input on their facilities. It would be wonderful to hear your input on their facilities.
Yeah. But I think,
like I said, Mike over there at DKC, he's like, yeah, he is a huge lake speed fan.
Oh, wow.
And I believe Mike has listened to this entire podcast. And that was his question is, hey, when's he coming to DKC? Yeah. So if you need help finding tracks and booking them,
get me a new truck that I don't have to worry about breaking down on me when I make this tour. And then
Lake, we need to send the drive your line rig to come get you.
Huh? Well, just coming and get me wouldn't help any.
We'll put the carts in the trailer for you.
We got the trailer. I got a good trailer. We're good on all that. But I use the same 24-foot hauler that I hauled a stock car in from time to time when I did that vintage stock car thing for a while.
Amazing.
Yeah, you didn't talk about that. We didn't talk about that.
Oh, well, I'm telling you, we're going to have to do a couple of these.
Yeah.
So fine. I got another question real quick.
Good.
And this is the one for one of my team owners, or one of my parents from my team. What is the best advice you can give a 14-year-old in karting that wants to go on from here?
Well, the first one I remember was the marketing thing.
Yeah.
Marketing.
Because that's you can't go anywhere if you don't.
Right.
You got to learn how to sell yourself and be a good representative for anybody that's attaching their name or company name to you. And you got to be thinking about that all the time. It's not all about me, it's us. You've got to be a group, your partnership. Laps. That's
seat time drops your time.
Yep. You can't get too many laps.
Anywhere.
You need to learn. You got to learn how to feel what's happening. Feel what the kart's doing, to know what the kart's doing, and learn what it takes to get it to do what you want it to do. Because conditions are going to be changing all the time. You don't have any control over that. Just got to learn how.
Putting the phone on the floor.
Yeah, lay on the carpet, it'd be quieter.
I threw mine down the hall. I thought it was my phone ringing.
Yeah, Larry chucked it out the door.
But no, that's I think that's the main thing. I was really fortunate, as early in my karting, that our house where my father built a house was on top of a big hill, and it had a big circle driveway, and it had a parking lot on both sides of the highway, both sides of the house. So I really had a pretty dead-gum good go-kart track just in my driveway. Run down the street in front of the house, go up one way in the parking lot, make a turn through the parking lot, back around, go around the shortcut, back over to the other parking lot, ran through there and ran around. And that was all on old, hard Goodyear stone.
Streaks.
So you were sliding and slipping the car all the time. I mean, you try to go as fast as it go, you got to be in a four-wheel drift,
This is fast.
Yeah, you just feel it. And the neighbor said, you are not to drive that go-kart before 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Absolutely, you cannot do it before 10 o'clock.
10:01.
I hate to think how much time I spent on the kart in that driveway. And that was before we got the, airport track.
Next question I have here. Let's see. Mike Hamilton. Of all the kart engines you have run, which one is or was your favorite?
This K30 is my favorite right now. At the time that we got them, the Perilla was really, really good. Really good. They were a little stronger. K88 was okay, but the crankcase and stuff just wasn't quite as beefy. Couldn't do the RPM stuff like the Perilla would. The Perilla was just a little bit better. And then that was, then they evolved all which ways after I got out of it. Next year was a 23, and just like I said, I was gone, so I really wasn't up on anything. I did find out later from Lynn that I was racing against some K80s that last year. That no wonder, because I had 78 or whatever it was, and didn't have a big crank stuff in it. I wondered why I was having a little bit more trouble than some of them were. You saw a picture there, probably my last go-kart race before the stock car thing, with Lynn and I on the front row at Portland, Oregon.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You still have a relationship with
Lynn? Just brought my motor with me, and Emmett talked me into coming out there and said, "We have a cart for you and everything. Just bring your motor, go run it." I wasn't going to go at all. And they talked me into it.
So you and Lynn are still friends today, and you guys do a lot with VKA.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Lynn doesn't drive anymore. What would you say was your best memory with Lynn Haddock? Oh, trust me, I know there's a plethora of them, but pick your best.
World Championship.
There you go. That says it all.
It's a big one.
Amazing.
It couldn't have happened without him.
Lynn is a very integral part of karting then, today, and what happens in the future, especially in this country.
Yeah.
And I've been really honored to be around and watch the Lynn Haddock era. And it's not over yet. Lynn is still moving and shaking and risk taking and making this sport happen.
He loves the sport. He loves the sport.
Yeah, he does.
A lot of people don't realize, because a lot of people think he's offensive or untouchable or whatever. But Lynn's, he likes the people, he likes the sport, and you get to know him.
Lynn's a good guy. I got to grow up in the sport around Lynn, and you learn a lot.
Absolutely. I think the world of it.
Lake, this has been an hour and a half, and I know we can go on for another 2 or 3. Will you please come back and join me again?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'd be glad to. The life story is amazing. You know, the older you get, the wiser you get. And when you're in the middle of a storm, you don't really know completely what's going on. And now I look back and I see all that happened, and I'm just amazed. And I know now after coming to Christ and making him Lord of my life, I realized that it's been him all along. He just had this amazing plan for my life. And he's opened doors and made things happen and be available to me that nobody could, you can't even dream of it, much less make it happen.
You don't think that there was a plan when he allowed you to be born into a family by the last name of Speed?
Man, what do you do? What do you do with that? What do you do with that? You know, and especially when I got into stock car stuff, and I got a lot of ridicule over that. You know, you're not too speedy today, are you? You know, that kind of stuff.
That's the name. Lake,
That's
I
good.
can't thank you enough for all of this time. I am really thankful that you said yes, and I really hope that you would join me again. I
glad to.
enjoyed
It's
all of this.
It's fun. You know, it's neat to go back. It's not until you sit down and do stuff like this, you talk about it, that you really remember and get the full impact, I guess. Again, it's like almost like reliving it again. And I've been blessed to be able to get paid to do something I love to do, and there's not a whole lot of people that are that fortunate to do that.
Like they say, love what you do and you don't work a day in your life.
That's it. And,
Well, I'll shoot you those dates for the Stars race at GoPro
yeah, I'd love to go out there and meet you
Track
guys.
House. I can't make it, which I really hate it because I'd really like to see you. But we'll be up there soon. I'm sure we'll figure out a way or an excuse to come up.
Do you know Tim Shutt?
I do. Timmy Tech.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we're both up for
He's one that helped. He put my crank back for me yesterday. I was out at his
Oh,
house.
Timmy's awesome. He is awesome.
Yeah.
Every time if we go to an event, if I don't have something in our trailer, it's like, go see Timmy. He'll definitely have it. I've relied on him a few times. He's good people.
He's a sharp guy too. Sharp guy. Sure.
So we will see you again. Hopefully it will be at a racetrack.
Yeah.
Maybe next time we'll talk, we'll have a new racetrack surface here at Buddy Butts Park. And I'd love to have you come down and see it once it's all prettied back up again.
Cool. Very good.
I remember where his seat goes in a comp kart.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I said I remember where to install the seat that would fit you. So
Oh, okay.
that won't be an excuse either.
Yeah. Well, I can still go in a pretty small one.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he's probably like a between a 2 and a 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And an inch and a half shorter than me
Well,
as far as length.
you go between the tight spots on this chest area. 12 inches is real good.
12 inches. Okay.
We got it.
Okay.
12 inches. Probably do.
You can have the captain.
We could do 11 and a half without any problem. So,
Lake, thank you once again.
thank y'all, and look forward to next time.
Definitely. We'll do this again.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, how do I sign off this thing? That's y'all.